We're going to start in about 1 minute. If everyone can make sure your phone's turned off. It's 6:30. We're going to call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carter. Here. Cowart. Crane. Esri.
Here.
Farney.
Here.
Fava.
Here.
Furtado. Greer.
Here.
Hanauer Friedman.
Here.
Lakshan.
Here.
Pugh.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Rogers.
Present.
Sexton. Here. Storr. Sollard.
Here.
Thorsland. Vanich Theronot.
Here.
Wiggs.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Cagle.
Here.
Locke.
Here. All right, moving on. We have a motion to approve the agenda and addenda. Mr. Sexton and Mr. Esri second. I would like to make one change. We need to remove item 8E6, the request for investment from RPC's future location. There's ongoing discussions and ongoing meetings, and it's not ripe for us to discuss at this time, so I'd ask that we move that along. So I guess motion by Locke to remove that from the agenda. Second by Farney. Any discussion of that motion? Okay, all in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now, any discussion of the agenda as amended? Nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 14th. Ms. Vanich Theronot, Ms. Rogers, second. Any discussion? Okay. No? No discussion? No.
It's off. It's off.
Oh, okay. Oh. Oh. All right. All in favor of the January 14th minutes approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we have public participation. Reminder to anybody in the audience that you just have to fill out a form and bring it forward if you'd like. First up, we have Mary Gentry. Just step forward to the mic, push the button, and when it's red, you're good to go. Mary Gentry? Oh, well, thank you very much. You have
Turn the mic on for you. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank all the women who recognized the crisis that we're in and initiated a call for action, solicited support, and developed a strategy to reach the goal of a state-of-the-art facility in our community to serve the needs of our aging population. I'm a member of the Alzheimer's Support Group, and my story is repeated every day as caregivers try to find the right place for their loved ones. My husband, Jim Gentry, maybe some of you know him, was at memory care at Amber Glen and fell and needed skilled care. We had to get hospice temporarily as I looked for a facility for him. This is a daunting task, doing all the research while caring for a loved one, even though he was in a facility. Without going into all the months of interviews, confirming availability, studying financial situations, and fact-finding, my search led me to cities and counties around Champaign-Urbana, most with a driving time of over a half an hour. There were openings in there were few openings in appropriate places, and being so far away made it a very difficult choice. Unfortunately, my husband, Jim, passed away when he was in hospice, so I did not have to make that difficult decision. But I have many friends, some of them here, that are facing this search and challenge every day. Being a caretaker is such a gut-wrenching job, and no one really wants it. Our great community deserves the best health care for our aging seniors conveniently located here in our county. When people are considering moving here, they deserve to have a contemporary, innovative, model, skilled nursing facility. It's a real asset and will attract potential residents, not cause them to look elsewhere. So my message is, let's get the work done together. I think it's the best thing for our community, and thank you for your support.
Next up, Nancy Yeagle.
All right. I just want to echo the comments that Mrs. Gentry made. I have recently joined as a member of the steering committee of Advocates for Aging Care and learned a great deal about how critical this issue is in our community, that we have well over a shortage of well over 300 beds that will be needed in the very near future and are needed now for people in the situations such as Mrs. Gentry described. I've had the experience of having to go and visit a loved one, my mother, 30 minutes away, which is a lot shorter distance than many people have had to experience here recently with the shortage of beds for long-term care and short-term rehab, and it is extremely difficult. At that time, I had 2 young children at home. My husband owned a restaurant. I was working full-time. Very, very stressful. And if any of you have ever had a loved one in a hospital or a nursing home, any kind of medical facility, you know that it's extremely important for family members to really monitor that care. So again, just echoing, this is a critical problem for our community. It does, in fact, make our community a little bit less attractive to people who move here because other smaller communities do have their own nursing homes. We don't. So to please bring all your tools in your toolkit to try to help us solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Joan Dixon.
I lost 14 pounds, so I thought maybe I could get through there. I'm not sure that worked. Thank you. I'd die for a glass of wine right now. Thank you very much. My name is Joan Dixon, and I'm a member of the Advocates for Aging Care Steering Committee, and I certainly appreciate you allowing us to be here again today. As you know, because we've been here several times, we've been working long and hard on this, and we really appreciate the support that you have given us for the needs assessment, for the market survey, for all those things, and our job's obviously not done. We still don't have one more bed than we had when we started out a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we've got to get more beds. That's a key thing for us. There are a lot of reasons. Some of them have to do with Medicare reimbursement. Some of them have to do with the state, the way it's structured and is less than welcoming for nursing homes and skilled nursing beds. We're working on that because you have given us indications over time that we need to look at every avenue and research everything. So we've met with Senator Faraci. He had us also meet with some other representatives on a statewide basis, some folks from the Office of the Senate President to talk about potential funding and how important they feel appropriate nursing care and care for our older adults is. While Senator Faraci is very enthusiastic about our project and working with us to make this a better place, to help us with some of the innovation, we're planning on doing when we get someone here to just build more beds. He also encourages all the different local and regional and statewide governments and organizations to work with us on this as well. And we've made some movements there. We're engaged with the Champaign City Council, the Urbana Council, and we've talked to a number of the smaller community village boards and that sort of thing. So again, we appreciate your support. I suspect this will not be the last time you see us. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Would any other member? Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Would any other member of the public wish to speak? All right, closing public participation, board member communications. Mr. Wiggs?
I'd just like to forward along from the Urbana Grants Division Manager that for the program year 2026, the City of Urbana has announced funding for grants to public or private not-for-profit agencies that provide community-based programs and services to low-income Urbana households. Applications for these grants opened February 3rd and will close on April 7th. And those can be submitted online through the Neighborly Grants portal.
Mr. Farney?
I would like to offer congratulations to the 7th grade basketball team at Holy Cross Grade School in Champaign. They will be playing for a state championship on Thursday night over in Normal. I believe their team is 24-2 on the season. The kids are an amazing group of athletes, including a couple of kids that, when they were 5th graders, played for me when I was coaching their 8th grade team, so I didn't harm them that much, evidently, because they are continuing to be much better than I ever could have coached them. So congratulations to Coach Stone Cipher and Coach Gibas, and root for the Crusaders on Thursday night. Thanks.
Any other board member? Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. Tomorrow is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Oh, Abraham Lincoln, he was a self-taught lawyer, attorney. We have a couple attorneys in here. Anyway, he was self-taught. He taught himself. And born in Kentucky, but spent most of his life in the land of Lincoln here in Illinois. He was a vocal advocate and a vocal opponent of slavery, and he was our 16th president of the United States. So Abraham Lincoln won the 1860 election by carrying 18 states. Any effort to consider why Lincoln became a Republican and his role in the formation of the Republican Party must begin with two basic points. Number one, a single issue united every Republican back then on the strenuous objection to the extension of slavery into the territories. And then secondly, Lincoln's passion was always for the principles of liberty in the Declaration of Independence, especially the principle that all men are created equal. Lincoln abhorred slavery, a position that led him to the Republican Party. Then in January 1863, he issued the Presidential Proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, and then after the Gettysburg Battle, anybody been to Gettysburg? Been to the battlefield? It's very somber. It's impressive, but incredibly somber. After that crucial battle, he gave a very famous speech. All the speechifiers before him spoke hours and hours, but he somehow managed to make the most important statement that has lived on for over 100 years, is in a couple brief words that he stated. He urged that we highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. And he desired that this nation, under God, should have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people and by the people and for the people should not perish from this earth. So happy birthday, Mr. Abraham Lincoln.
Ms. Carter?
Happy Black History Month. Hopefully you'll be able to take part in some of the community activities that are going on in Champaign-Urbana this month.
Any other board member communications? I'll add in that one of the opportunities that's available for Black History Month is the African American Heritage Trail. They are doing their inaugural public trips starting on Monday. For $10, going to the AfricanAmericanHeritageTrail.org website, you can find how to sign up. But for $10, you get 2 hours riding on a bus and learning about all of the various contributions of notable African Americans in Champaign, Urbana. I believe it goes as far as Homer, but I don't know that that's on the site or on the tour yet, but that's more for summer when it can be a longer tour. But it's one of the many, many activities to encourage. One other thing, you'll note we have many absences tonight. It is cold, flu, COVID season, so I'm encouraging everybody to remember all of the things we learned and were reinforced during the COVID season. Please wash your hands. Please take care of yourselves and each other. We're all going to be better if we're healthy. Moving on, Justice and Social Services, Chair Rogers.
Thank you. So the monthly reports for probation and court services, public defender, and animal control, and the emergency management can all be found online. We also have the Rosecrans reentry reports, the financial report, and program report from December. That's information only. And then we have a presentation from our lovely ladies of aging, advocates for aging. So I don't know who wants to come up, but you can come up and get the presentation.
Good evening.
The presentation's open on the screen there at the bottom.
Now we're ready. Good evening. My name is Sarah Laufenberg. I'm a member of the Steering Committee for Advocates for Aging Care. And on behalf of all advocates, including Lori Reynolds and Kathy Emanuel, I want to thank the Champaign County Board for its ongoing support and for the opportunity to share an update this evening. We'll go down. There we go. Tonight we'll provide a brief overview of the state of Champaign County's shortage of skilled care beds and share our accomplishments and anticipated next steps. When it comes to caring for seniors in Champaign County, Advocates for Aging Care has observed a deeply troubling situation unfolding. Champaign County is one of 2 counties in the state of Illinois that has a nursing home bed shortage. Livingston County is short 9 beds, and we are short 337. This is due in part to an increase in census numbers of those retired and older over the last 25 years, but much more significantly is due to 3 nursing homes closing over the last 3 years. For those aged 85 and older, there are national standards for having 231 beds per 1,000 residents. And at present, we are at 54% of that. We are at 125 beds per 1,000. As a result, as was mentioned in the open session earlier, there are hospital patients being discharged to facilities out of town, out of county, and sometimes even out of state, which is a significant hardship, not only for the patient, but also for their families who are wanting to be nearby and support them in their care. First, a quick introduction. Advocates for Aging Care is comprised of community members dedicated to bringing attention to this matter. Our steering committee are a diverse group of individuals with varied professional ties, including healthcare, not-for-profit sector, and law. But our commonality is our personal experience and mutual concern for the situation in which Champaign County currently finds itself. We have struggled as individuals to find care for our spouses and friends, and others, including myself, don't feel comfortable encouraging parents to relocate here to be closer to family because I'm not sure where they would end up if they were to need some assistance. I will press on here. Advocates for Aging Care has created a robust community collaborative, including our local health systems, community agencies, Parkland College, and the University of Illinois. This is a complex issue that is far more navigable with collaboration. We are excited about the ways that Illinois and Parkland can foster innovation in looking at our challenges in a new way with regard to staffing and just what care would look like. Over the past 22 months, Advocates for Aging Care has completed community surveys with the support of the Champaign County Board and Champaign-Urbana Public Health District. A national consultant was hired to assess our local market. There have been countless meetings that have included some of you at the government level and also with leaders at the U of I. Through public outreach to dozens of local organizations, Advocates for Aging Care has amassed over 300 community members who are supporting this effort.
So how do I do this? Like just hit down? Okay. Down, switch, okay. Hi, my name's Lori Reynolds. I'm just going to sort of bring you up to speed of things that we have done. Some of this we have already reported to you. Some of this you paid for, and we are very grateful for your support in this. But I thought I would just highlight a few of the really salient points that we learned after our first formal step, which was the needs assessment conducted by Public Health at your direction. You can see a few of the statistics. For me, the one that jumps out is the fact that the number of residents over 60 in our county increased by 67% in the last 20 years. That is shocking and certainly suggests that maybe we're a very healthy county with a lot of longevity, but it also suggests that the trajectory in terms of the need for skilled nursing beds is not going to go down. It's going to go up. Again, of the findings, this first step was a community survey. I don't know how many of you remember the great presentation that the public health people did here last summer. Again, just to highlight, of those 14% of the 800 respondents that we have, which I think public health told us was a kind of a record for a community survey, 70% of the respondents who needed care reported that they had had difficulties in finding placement. I'm sure that there are many, I've seen heads go up and down when we report this statistic. I know that there are many of you with personal experiences. At the farmer's market, we heard story after story after story of people who just couldn't find a place for their parent to get good long-term care. You've heard the story of our beds. That's a breakdown of the number of licensed beds that we currently have. It's 411. It's grossly short of what we need, and it is a number that we keep in mind every day as we knock our heads together and try to figure out how we are going to solve this crisis. I want to say after the community needs assessment was done, it was kind of an energizing moment for us. We got together. As Sarah pointed out, all of the collaboration that we've had and the participation and support from all segments of our community, governments, university, healthcare, private sector, and community members themselves. We are energized, and we believe that this is something that we can that we can solve. It's a problem that we can bring a facility to this community that we will be proud of, that will reflect an opportunity for the university and other entities to collaborate and support us. And we'll be back asking you for more support, but for now, we just wanted to bring you up to date. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to talk about the market survey, the market study.
One of the last things we said we asked for support on was a market study. We've done the needs assessment, and we hired a consultant, Greystone, a national consultant that works mostly with not-for-profit senior living facilities. And we're very focused on bringing to town a not-for-profit, developing a not-for-profit organization that will accept Medicaid patients as well as private pay and Medicare. So Greystone did a market survey, market study. They come in, they interview everybody, and they've got lots of information from national standards and things that they've done around the country. And of course, they confirmed the deficit of beds. That was easy. And they said, you know, you are the most underserved county in the whole state of Illinois. Why is that? Why are you the worst county in the state of Illinois? And it's because of what you've already heard. Somebody came in and closed 3 nursing homes, and we have a growing aging population, so we're in a worse situation than any other county in the state of Illinois, which I think is one reason Senator Faraci is willing to look at how they can work with us. And they Greystone came up with and said, okay, if you're even going to get to the national standard, you have to have at least 274 additional beds. And I bring that up because there has been some discussion about, I know you guys have been into this in the weeds, about what's going to happen with the old Champaign County nursing home. Even if somebody were able to come in and open the old Champaign County nursing home, and I know that there are lots of ifs, ands, and buts about that, it still wouldn't meet our needs. And we are really after trying to do something that is different than the traditional answers to the skilled nursing facility, because those aren't working very well. This just reinforces, they look at the primary market area, PMA, and say, here's how many beds you've got, here's how many beds you have per 1,000 for people over age 75, and here's how many you have for people over age 85. And it's just what Lori talked about. For our market area, the PMA, we've got 125 beds per 1,000 for people over the age of 85. The state of Illinois has almost 3 times that. They have 323, which is why, unfortunately, the state of Illinois put a moratorium on adding any more skilled nursing beds in the state of Illinois. And the country has almost double what we have. So again, any standards you look at, we're way below where we should be. Greystone came in and talked to everybody, and they came back with their recommendations and said, you know, the way the rest of the world is going is they add skilled nursing beds as part of a continuum of care. There's nobody who's building many new nursing home beds. Now, we found out that there are a few people, but there's not very many. And they came back and said, that, why don't you look at adding skilled nursing beds as part of a continuum of care? And they said, you know, you have a market need in this market for independent living. Probably you've got enough services for assisted living, and you seem to have enough services for memory care, but you definitely need skilled care, and you really could use some more independent living for senior living. Why don't you look at working with somebody in the community who's already got one aspect of the continuum of care, and maybe see if you could work with them to have them expand both independent living and skilled nursing. So that is part of what we're doing right now. They also said there is a possibility for creating something brand new, and not working with somebody in the community. But if you're going to do that, you're going to need a little bit either more equity or a little bit more revenue to support it. So they said a new skilled nursing facility has greater chance of success if it's part of a life plan community, not only for market reasons, but also because the owner of that facility has got to go out and get financing to build the facility. And the bond investors like to have somebody who has experience and a management team and board governance, and we want that too. We are not renegades who think we can go out and raise some money and build a nursing home. We don't think that's sustainable. Might be able to get something off the ground, but we want to have something that is different and better and will be here for the next 20 years. So our next steps were, how could we identify some potential sources of revenue and equity that could support a project? And how could we look at who might come to this market? So we are, as you may be aware, there's a new owner of the Windsor of Savoy. It's a company out of Goshen, Indiana. They have nice facilities. They have the continuum of care. They have skilled nursing facilities in every one of their areas. And they accept Medicaid patients, and they're not-for-profit, and they're faith-based. So Carl helped us meet with their CEO and their vice presidents, and we've been talking to them. But the first thing that CEO said when I said to him, we really need skilled care here, was he said, you know, And I said, you have skilled care every place else where you build. And he said, yeah, we do. But do you know how awful it is in Illinois? It's the 49th worst state for Medicaid reimbursement. And it has an inhospitable regulatory environment. And we do have skilled care in Ohio and Indiana and Michigan, but we are very concerned about trying to do that in Illinois. So he said, we're not saying no, but let us get our feet on the ground, let's see what we're doing. So we were talking with them. We're also investigating and exploring other owners and operators of not-for-profit organizations that have the continuum of care. There's a place called Pacific Retirement Services. We have a new Dean of Fine and Applied Arts at the University of Illinois who came from ASU, and he said, do you know they put a great senior living center at ASU, Arizona State University, and it's right on the campus, and it's a gorgeous facility, and all the alumni come back, and they make gifts to the university, and it's a great place to live. And it turns out that that same Pacific Retirement Services has done the same thing at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So we're following up with them to see if they would like to explore this market. We're looking at the Methodist Senior Living. There's a company called Covenant. It's the largest life plan community owner in the country. Hudson Woods, and then there's a place called Greenhouse. And in the midst of this, as Lori says, everybody we talk to says, like when I think I've told you the story, we went to the dean of the College of Engineering and said, here's what we're thinking about doing. What do you think about this? And he said, absolutely, we need this. I'm trying to bring my mother here from India, and there's no place for her. I don't know what we're going to do. We're having trouble recruiting because people want to come with their parents, and there is no place. So we've been able to build a coalition at the University of Illinois with the engineering, applied health sciences, fine and applied arts, and the College of Medicine. And they're interested in creating kind of what they call a project platform where we would come together with community stakeholders to create a really innovative skilled nursing facility. So our risks are, we've got to get through the Department of Public Health Certificate of Need. Financial sustainability, of course, is a risk, and we don't want to bring in a low-quality owner-operator. Those are easy to find, and that's not what we want. Our alternatives are looking at expanding an existing organization, attracting somebody who already knows the Illinois market, who is a life plan owner-operator who might want to come downstate instead of being just in Chicago. Or we might look at it, we're trying to attract a not-for-profit out-of-state skilled care, somebody who just does nursing homes, who might want to expand into our market. That's a little bit trickier. And we have really gotten ourselves kind of excited about what's called the greenhouse model that exists in Ohio, where they have some not-for-profit homes that are what they call neighborhoods, that are 12 people living in a neighborhood together, all in private rooms with private baths. They have campuses of 5 neighborhoods, and they've been able to do that in a not-for-profit environment, accepting Medicaid patients and providing a really high quality of care. So it's another thing we're taking a look at. So where are we going? We think there's an opportunity here to do something that is really different, that is not only a model locally, but could be a demonstration nationally. Because I got to tell you, when we talk with national experts, they're saying, this is not just a problem in your community. Everybody's closing down their nursing home beds. What are we going to do with the boomer population? And I said, well, in 35, 40 years, you're not going to have to worry about it. But for the next 35 years, we're going to have this problem. And we think we can do something that's different. So we're contacting owners of life plans. We're exploring the greenhouse and other non-traditional options. And we're looking at land that maybe would be gifted and additional sources of revenue. And we think if we can create something that's different, if we bring together all the community resources, as Senator Faraci is suggesting, and be a magnet for people to come to this community instead of driving people out of this community. And we really thank you for taking the time to listen to us. We want you to know we're not just going to you, we're going to Urbana City Council and Champaign and many other entities. So we're not just saying you are the answer, but you've got to be part of the answer, because everybody's going to have to be part of the answer, and it's just a significant need. Thanks again for your support and your time.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Ms. Rogers. Interesting fact. First of all, Sarah, Lori, and Kathy, thank you for being here. What did you say about the we're the 49th state, which I guess is not good. We're not 49 from being the best, 49 from being the worst, I suppose,
Medicaid reimbursement.
on Medicaid. I guess that doesn't sound right, doesn't sound happy. If just that one aspect was cured, would that make a difference, or what kind of difference would it make?
It would make a difference for the whole skilled nursing industry, yes. So no question about it. You look at Accolade, for instance, they are 70 to 75% Medicaid. And the more, if they get over a certain threshold for Medicaid patients, they get a higher level of reimbursement. So there's a lot of Medicaid patients in a lot of nursing homes. So, but that's not the only people. There are also private pay and Medicare patients. So yes, it would probably help improve. I think it would not. I think it would not answer what we are trying to achieve. I don't think it would necessarily inspire people to come in and do something different so the people, the older citizens in our community, have a decent place to be. Now, what they did in Ohio was they said, okay, we're going to change the Medicaid so that there is a quality bonus reimbursement. Now, we have that a little bit in Illinois, but not to the same extent. So you can get up to $55 more per day as a provider for Medicaid if you meet certain quality standards. And they also passed, which is what I'm really interested in trying to do, they said, they did a pilot where they said if you provide a private room and a private bath for a Medicaid patient, you can get a reimbursement of up to $30 more a day. And that's really what we went to Senator Faraci and said, what if we could do some kind of pilot like that and see whether or not that works in Illinois so that you're not breaking the state budget and asking everybody to just pay more to every Medicaid provider, but you incentivize somebody to do something that is clearly going to help quality in terms of disease and spreading infection and attention if you could do private rooms. And it's one of the things they've done in Ohio, and in these neighborhoods that they've created. During COVID, they did not have the mortality that other places had because they didn't have the same kind of spread of infection. They are 4-star ratings. The only 4-star rating nursing home we've had in this community has been Clark Lindsay. So we have 1-star rating facilities. So the reimbursement definitely can make a difference, but I think it's going to take more than that. Like engineering talks about, if you can construct a new facility where you have sensors built into the facility that sense motion, you might be able to save on staffing, and you could save on falls. There are some really cool things that the Applied Health Sciences is doing in terms of robotic technology that they think could be used in a nursing home. We don't have a brand new nursing home anywhere, so we don't have a facility that's structured to even allow that kind of technology to be included, but we think we could have that if we can create this.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm inspired by your advocacy.
We appreciate your support.
And,
I know you've helped us out before, and we appreciate it.
Life is precious at all stages, from beginning of life to end of life. We need advocates in all areas, and I just sincerely applaud you for all your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ellie?
Just a quick thought, when you mentioned the couple of universities that have a facility as part of their campus, that's really interesting. And just another connection that made me think about maybe being fruitful to look into is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, OLLI. I don't know if you've connected with them at all, but I know that their funding comes from the Bernard Osher Foundation, and I'm not sure whether that would be a foundation interested or not. But if there was a connection with OLLI,
Right.
it makes sense. I just don't know if the money would be behind it. But
some of these university ones, one of the ones we talked to, they said they require of the independent living people, not the skilled nursing, they all have to take some course at the university. It can be Tai Chi, and they don't have to pay for it, but they have to sign up for a course because they're trying to make sure that the independent senior living people are continuing to, maximize their life, and they let anybody who lives in the senior living be auditors in any course in the university. And the universities said, we talked with somebody who said, and we like having them there because they come in and they ask questions that some of the other student population isn't asking. And then they also have students who come in and do community service or meet some requirements for a class. So I think there's some real opportunities. It's a huge trend right now. But we are perfectly positioned for that. And one of the other things they say is we're trying to have a community that can be, two people we talked to that from associations who said, we're trying to set up something that could be a model and be evaluated so that we can say, all right, does this work, or what do we need to change to make it work? And then we can replicate it in other places in the country, because that's what everybody does. They look for what's working, and we think we have an opportunity to do that, because there's not very many places where you have the same need that we have, so that if somebody will come in and do it, there's going to be a good market response, and we've got this fabulous university to help us. So we seem like the perfect spot for this, but we are going to have money.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Just a quick question based on something that you said. There's a moratorium for skilled nursing beds in Illinois. Would we be able to, as a state, as a community, I guess, be able to get a waiver on something like that? Or are we just assuming by the time that we're actually in a place to build a facility, that would no longer be in place?
Right, it's a great question. So there is a waiver if you're part of a continuing care center. So if you're part of a life plan community and you say, yes, I'm going to have independent living and something else, then there's a waiver that you can do some skilled care. Now, we think because we're so different and in such crisis need that we could probably convince the planning board. And we got to talk with the consultant who talked with the head of the planning board, who is a former nursing home administrator, and he said, you probably can do that. Now, if you have a lot of people in your community who object to you doing it, that'd be different. But if you have enough support, especially from the hospitals, county board, that says, yes, we need this, then you probably could get approval. And that's where the other place that Senator Faraci stepped up and he said, I'm going to help you take care of this. And he said, we could try to pass legislation that says anybody who doesn't have at least 70% of the beds they need could get a waiver. And I think something like that would be a possibility. But it's another hurdle.
Anyone else have anything?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the year-end summary from the public defender. I believe Liz is here.
Hi, guys. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to update you all about what the Public Defender's Office has been up to for the last year. Because we are doing such an incredibly fabulous job, and I am so proud of the staff that I have and that I work with. You can see from the memo that I provided that we are just short of fully staffed. We have 16 of 17 attorney positions filled. All other positions are filled. And even with that number of lawyers, you can take a look at the number of cases that each of my attorneys is dealing with. And amongst the felony division, I myself have over 150. Most of my felony attorneys are between 175 and 250 cases, people that we are representing. And under the old ass standards from the 70s, we're supposed to have no more than 150 cases at a time. So all of us are in violation of that standard. And that was the standard that was from 40 years ago, 50 years ago. The new standards, as I've presented to this board before, indicate that I should have 27 lawyers in order to handle the caseload that Champaign County currently has. And the fact is, and just remains, that we are going to be incredibly overworked. That's just how it's going to be. And yet I'm watching the people that I work with who are still able to treat every client with compassion, who are working weekends and nights, prepping for trials and trying to get every case handled in an appropriate manner. And the fact of the matter is that without us, there is no criminal justice system in this county. because you can see from the statistics, we touch 95% of the felony cases. Now, that number goes down as the seriousness of the cases go down. The last time I ran the numbers, I think we had around 80% of the misdemeanors and around 65% of the traffic cases. And that's because private attorneys can be afforded when their retainers are under $1,000 for a traffic ticket or what have you. But I don't know about y'all, but I couldn't afford a private attorney if I needed one for a felony case. The retainers range from $10,000 to $50,000. And so we are always going to have the vast majority of the criminal cases that pass through the Champaign County Circuit Court. So I am just gratified that I have the group of people working here that I have. And we are running on fumes, but we're still running. We're not going to be running if I can't keep the people that I currently have. And I put in a little section there for you guys about our mitigation specialist, which is a new position that we were able to obtain grant funding for, and those are my 2 social workers. And they have worked on over 160 cases in the last 6 months alone. Those people, you know, for what they do for our clients, you know, helping people get connected with services, finding housing for the homeless, getting them applied for Social Security benefits, for Medicaid. You know, a lot of places will not take that you need either private insurance or you have to have Medicaid in order to get into substance abuse treatment facilities, and people don't know that, and they can't get the treatment that they need, which means that the cycle of recidivism continues because we're not treating the underlying problem. Now, these 2 social workers have managed to hook up over 50 people with those services, which means that they are going to be in a position to be healed from the problems that brought them to the criminal justice system in the first instance, and they will not be coming back through our court system if they can continue to maintain those benefits. So, you know, I just today, every time one of my attorneys is the office across from me, and every time she gets off the phone with a client, she says, "It's my pleasure to represent you." And that is the attitude at the public defender's office. We are all here because we are mission driven, because no offense, but we're not here for the money. We're never going to be here for the money. Not even if you guys give us all raises, we're not going to be here for the money. But at least if we can maintain what we currently have, we can keep this baseline afloat so that we don't lose people to the city of Champaign, the University of Illinois, private firms, et cetera. And, you know, we do everything we can to make the environment at the PD's office a fun place to be, a collegial place to be, a supportive place to be, and every single one of them, like when I get new attorneys to apply for my spots, I could give a rat's ass if they have trial experience. That's not the point. The point is, are you going to be an empathetic, compassionate person who is going to treat every one of our clients with dignity and respect? Because that's what everybody deserves. And, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's this paradigm that exists in the world that for some reason public defenders have to be understaffed, underfunded, and work to the bone, and that's just what we have to do. That's not true. We don't have to be that way. And right now we are at a medium level where we're surviving. But I'll be honest, I'm concerned because with the executive orders that are coming out of the current presidential administration, with cuts to grants and cuts to state funding, I don't know where we're going to be at in 6 months. And so one of the reasons I wanted to come to you all and give you kind of a view of what we've done for the last year is to prepare you that if those cuts come, I have 5 people on grants right now. And if the cuts come, I'm going to come back and ask you for the money to pay for that. And I think we can afford it, because what we can't afford is to have the service dip back below where we were in 2022 when I got here. I don't get complaints anymore from clients about not hearing from their attorneys, not having the person come and visit them. My people are putting in work. I tried to take last Saturday off, and I couldn't because there was a malfunction in the alarmed door that lets my people into the courthouse on weekends. And I started getting texts and phone calls all day. Hey, I can't get in. I need to go to work. Hey, I can't get in. I need to go to work. And I was like, okay, I'll be right over there. And then, you know, so I had to go let them in because my key card worked when theirs didn't. You know, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. Every weekend, there's people in my office working their butts off. And, you know, it is a gratifying and fulfilling experience to work here. And I'm proud of the work that they're doing, but I want everybody out there to know how hard my staff is working and how much joy they get from helping the community and what would happen if we don't do the work that we need to do. So everything is in there. You can see our numbers speak for themselves. We are getting cases attended to much more quickly. Clients are getting attended to much more quickly. We are closing far more cases than are being opened on an annual basis for the last 2 years. I have no reason to think that's not going to continue in 2025. And I'm happy to take any questions that you all might have.
Samantha.
You know, it disappoints me to hear, for the last 3 years, there has always been a staff shortage or a complaint with salary. If we can find $70,000 to come up with for advertisement, we can find money for your office. So I would just hope that the county takes this seriously and that we retain the employees that you work so hard to get. I have heard nothing but good things about you. I wish we could just wrap you up and duplicate you all throughout here because you are so professional and you do treat people with dignity, and that's what I hear the most. So thank you so much. I just hope that, this is taken seriously and that we can retain those employees in your office. Thank you for the good work.
Thank you.
Ellie.
Thank you as well. The grants that are funding your 5 employees, are those mostly federal, state? Where are they coming from?
I have 2 through the AOIC grant, which is a state Supreme Court grant, and 3 on federal related grants. So we'll see. And I mean, I can't help but think that all funding is going to be jeopardized because if even the state funding is cut, then the state budget is going to be impacted, and then the state is going to look at whether or not they need to keep funding these grants. And so even if only a few of those are federal, I do believe that the cutting of federal grants will impact across the board.
Anyone else? Michelle.
What's the status of the RFP for your new case management software?
That is in the hands of Bud Windelborn, who is the office manager for the state's attorney's office. I checked in with him last week, and he said that there was a slight delay. I don't know when we're going to be evaluating that, but I'm on the committee. So as soon as we get everything proposed, we'll be taking a look at that. I expect it's going to be really soon.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Ms. Rogers. Always a joy to see you.
Hi, Jeff.
Thank you for all your hard work and the manifest changes you've made and sustained in your department. I wish all would learn from your example. So I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you.
So justice delayed is justice denied, right?
That's fact.
There you go. Well, anyway, thank you so much for all your work.
I appreciate that. And, if you look at our jury trial numbers for last year, 60% of those are ending in no convictions. And so that person, whoever that person is, who has been waiting for that day for all that time, justice delayed is justice denied is absolutely on point. Because I'm glad we got them there, but who knows how long they had to sit before they got that opportunity.
Anyone else? Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the Circuit Court, the resolution supporting Senate Bill 180, and I believe Judge Rosenbaum's here.
Is this on? All right. I know everybody here really appreciates and respects Liz Pollack. I just want to remind you before we talk about my topic, I hired her, okay? So just remember that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll be brief. I'm going to assume most, if not all of you, read my memo. I'm here on behalf of the entire judiciary for the 6th Judicial Circuit, asking you to support a Senate bill that's out there, 180. There was a law that was created a couple years ago, which is not in dispute. It changes at-large judgeships, where you're elected in 6 counties, to being elected in 1 county. But the problem with that law is that it says the first 3 to become vacant are going to be Champaign County judgeships, and the second 2 are going to be Macon County. Wouldn't be a problem if the next 3 at-large judges, because there's 5, 3 here and 2 in Macon, were from Champaign. That's not going to happen. I know for a fact that one of the Macon County judges is going to retire sometime in this year. What that means is that if this law doesn't get changed in terms of the timing of replacements, Macon County will lose a judge, which they cannot afford, and we're going to add another judge for which we don't have space. So the bottom line is, I contacted all of our state reps and all of our state senators that are in either Macon or Champaign County, and Chapin Rose, a Republican, submitted a bill, and Paul Faraci, a Democrat, submitted a bill on the exact same issue. They're slightly different. I talked to Chapin Rose, and he said Faraci's is a little more detailed. I support his, so it's got bipartisan support. And the Champaign County Bar Association, as well as the Decatur Bar Association, have supported this resolution. And your counterparts in Macon County are going to be deciding this resolution later on this week. If we don't fix this, there's going to be chaos in both of these counties. We're just asking that this technical glitch be changed so that when a Macon County judge retires, it's a Macon County spot. When it's a Champaign County judge retiring, it's a Champaign County spot. That's what it's all about. It's a technical change about timing. And I'm asking for your support so that you, along with all these other organizations and groups, can contact state reps and senators to support it. So I'm open to any questions you may have.
Jenny?
I'll just say the Facilities Committee also has your support because I don't know
I'll see you
where on
next
earth.
month.
Yes,
Yes, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You will be on the agenda next month to talk about the lack of space we are already experiencing for the courthouse.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, John?
Me again, thank
Nope,
you.
John.
Oh, good, thanks.
Go ahead. I don't have any questions about what's in front of us. I just, on a matter of principle, I went and did some history, and I want to remind folks of the history of this. Back in 2022, and I'm going to quote directly from the News Gazette, "Playing politics with the courts is not healthy for democracy. In fact, the chief administrative officer of the Illinois Supreme Court sent a memo to her justices that called the new local court redistricting an unmitigated disaster. This is a problem, or I should say, this is a solution that went searching for a problem. In my opinion, the real fix would be go back to having at-large judges elected in the 6th Judicial Circuit. There was no problem when this was passed in 2022. I should add, the language that created this was dropped on the day of the vote, 389 pages. I looked it up. 389 pages dropped on the day of the vote. Also from the News Gazette article. Without any public hearings or significant discussion in legislative committee, legislative Democrats imposed on Madison and other mid-sized Illinois counties new subcircuits for judges, which will protect and enhance Democratic judgeships. You can't gerrymander county lines. So in this case, the state legislature went through and just said, all right, we'll just make it gerrymandered counties. This was a bad deal when it was passed, and now we're going back and having to fix what Springfield screwed up again. I'm tired of us having to go back and fix things that get passed in Springfield at the last minute, purely political. No one at the Champaign County Courthouse went running and saying, we need this. I remember Chapin Rose being up in arms about it. This was done at the last minute with the support of Representative Ammons and Senator Bennett at the time, and it was purely political. I'll be voting no on this out of principle. One other thing is there is a typo in the resolution. It is not 730 ILCS 25-2. It's actually 705 ILCS 35/F2F-14. So we need to make sure that that's correct. Yeah, it's 705 ILCS 35/2F-14.
I apologize, I had a staff member look it up, and that's what I put in here, so I apologize. We'll
Happens all the time, so don't worry about it. I just, when I
Can't
was
trust
looking it
lawyers.
up, when I was going to do the research on it, I'm like, that's a corrections part of the statute.
And just to be clear, this resolution doesn't ask to revisit the underlying bill. What's done is done, and the judiciary was never consulted. And like you said, it came in at the middle of the night. This is just to fix the timing so we don't have that chaos. So.
Jeff?
Thanks, Mr. Rogers. Thanks, Judge, for being here. Appreciate you. Always enjoy seeing you. I agree with my colleague, although I'm going to vote yes, because I had conversations with Mr. Rose, Senator Rose, and his support of this bill, and that he also had, I think last year, tried to get this done last year, right? And so now it shows up this year because obviously if someone retires, we have a problem, right? Maybe you, on the technicality, maybe you can help me understand why, if someone from Macon retires, why doesn't Macon get the judge? Why does Champaign end up with the judge?
Well, there are 5 at-large spots where you run in all 6 counties. 3 of them sit in Champaign, 2 sit in Macon County, okay? So what this revision says is when a Macon County judge retires, it becomes a resident spot for Macon County, and when a Champaign County judge retires, it becomes a Champaign County resident spot. The problem is the language in the current law says when all 5 of these become vacant, here's the order in which they get filled. The first 3 retirements of these 5 go to Champaign. And that's what that problem is because the first one that retires is going to be in Macon County. So they would lose one, and voters in Champaign would pick that replacement. Now, as chief judge, if this law doesn't get changed, I'm going to tell everybody what I'm going to do as chief judge. I'm going to say, all you lawyers who want to apply to become this judge in Champaign County, good luck, but you're going to sit in Macon County for 5 years because they cannot afford to lose a judge, and we don't have space for you here. So that's how it happens because the language, it says the first 3 become Champaign when it really shouldn't say that. Yeah.
On the surface, water's under the bridge, right? Already occurred, can't
I'm trying to make
change
this
that.
nonpartisan, non-political.
You're stuck with this.
Yeah.
It just seems, does it seem fair that the other 4 counties don't have a judge?
Well,
why, is it always been that way? They've never had judges? All judges have always been Champaign and Macon?
So we have 4 small counties in the circuit. They each have 1 resident judge who's elected just from their county.
Okay.
Champaign and Macon are larger, and each has half of their judges voted on by their citizens of the county and half who are at large. So in Champaign, we have 6 circuit judges who are elected. 3 are elected from Champaign County and 3 are elected from around the circuit. That's been the case for many, many decades. And yes, this law changed it to basically make everybody a county judge. So my replacement will be elected by only Champaign County citizens.
Do the other counties still retain a judge, or is it always going to be Champaign and Macon?
This law only affected the at-large spots, and those only exist in Champaign and Macon. The 4 small counties just, there's a judge who's elected in Piatt County, she sits in Piatt County, and nobody touches that.
So the at-large feature was only these 2 counties?
Right.
Okay, well, okay, I think I understand it better. Yeah. Disagree with the underlying principle, but we are where we are, right? We have to save the day with this last-minute software patch.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
I move.
Okay.
I move. I know you don't have a motion or a second. I move.
Okay. We'll second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? I think the ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, are you coming to the mic? Or are you? Oh, okay. Okay. I don't have any other business. I also don't. I don't have a cheers report either. Items to be placed on the consent agenda, 7E. No.
Nothing, since we have some nays.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Okay. Then back to you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Furtado cannot be here tonight, so Finance was brought to you by Vice Chair Farney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item that we have, actually the yellow sheet on your desk is an amended budget amendment. So we're going to use the numbers off of the yellow sheet. That is Budget Amendment BUA 2024-12-987, Fund 1080, General Corporate, Department 031, Circuit Court, increased appropriations of $40,310, increased revenue, 0, and the reason is to cover outstanding invoices for professional services. Could I have a motion, please? Mr. Esri and Mr. Sullard. Any discussion? And Lori is here if anybody has any questions, but she would really rather stay in that back row. We do believe this should be most, if not all of them, and this gets it done in fiscal year 24, which is our preference to do that. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Item number 2, Budget Amendment BUA 2025-1-142, Fund 2109, Indoor Climate Resources Agency, Department 932, Indoor Climate Resources Agency, increased appropriations $3,308,055, increased revenue $3,308,055. Reason, appropriation of grant funds for the Indoor Climate Research and Training Division of the Regional Planning Commission. Could I have a motion? I have Ms. Loshkin and Beth. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 3, Budget Amendment BUA 2025-1-313, Fund 2110, Workforce Development, Department 110, Workforce Development, increased appropriations $126,898, increased revenue $126,898. The reason is appropriation of grant funds for the Workforce Development Division of RPC. Could I have a motion, please? Mr. Sexton and Chair Locke. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Number 4, Budget Amendment BUA 2025/2/7, Fund 2500, County Grant Fund, Department 075, General County. Increased appropriation of $122,836.63. Increased revenue, 0. The reason, to appropriate the remaining Firearm Safe Storage Strategies grant funds from fiscal year 2024 to the fiscal year 2025 budget. Could I have a motion? Ellie, and second by Daniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Budget Amendment BUA 2025/2/10, Fund 2106, Public Safety Sales Tax, Department 237, Delinquent Prevention Grants, increased appropriations $13,670, increased revenue, 0. The reason is the county funds the Youth Assessment Center based upon 5% of the estimated public safety sales tax. The fiscal year 2025 budget needs to be updated to match the final estimated amount of public safety sales tax revenue. A motion, please. Emily and Beth, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Number 6, Budget Amendment BUA 2025/2/11, Fund 1080, General Corporate, Department 124, Regional Office of Education. Increased appropriations $7,066, increased revenue, 0. Reason is that the estimated EAV changed after the fiscal year 2025 budget was approved, requiring additional funds for the Regional Office of Education. Could I have a motion, please? Aaron and Ed. I will be voting on this as this is property tax revenue and my position is funded by the state, just to make that clear. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Number 7, Budget Amendment BUA 2025/2/21, Fund 2500, County Grant Fund, Department 031, Circuit Court and 036, Public Defender. Increased appropriations of $147,624.52. Increased revenue, zero. The reason to appropriate the remaining adult redeploy Illinois grant funds from fiscal year 2024 to the fiscal year 2025 budget. Moved by Carolyn and a second by Jenny. All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? That carries. Number 8, Budget Amendment, BUA 2025/2/23, Fund 2500, County Grant Fund, Department 031, Circuit Court, and 036, Public Defender. Increased appropriations, $229,796. Increased revenue, $229,796. Reason, appropriation of grant funds from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority for the Adult Redeploy Illinois program. Could I have a motion, please? Matt, and a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you for getting through those nice and quickly. Part B, the auditor, his reports are on the webpage for November and December of 2024 and his fourth quarter report. The treasurer's monthly report for December 2024 is on the treasurer's website. Jeff.
Thank you, Vice Chair Farney. Does anybody know if the auditor has started the process for the upcoming audit? Is this about the right time frame to start, or how does that work?
So I know that Clifton Larson Allen has already been in talks with him about timeline, which this is the typical time of the year when they start planning out the year. I do know that from Hope Wheeler that they have started. Hope is transitioning to a different position there at CLA, so we'll have some new people working with us, but they're working with the auditor's office and county financial staff to get that moving. All right. Part D, the county executives part of the agenda. Item number 1 is establishing a capital asset policy. Could I have a motion? Jen, Locke, and Ellie. Any discussion on this? So this was brought to us last month. There were some revisions that we asked for, input from Clifton Larson Allen. They gave us those revisions. It was nothing substantial. It was mostly language. Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
This comment is really a comment of appreciation to the county executive staff for creating this policy. I commend them for their hard work and glad that they did this.
I will concur with that. We needed to do this, so it's good to have this in one place. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Next item, resolution abating certain taxes hereto levied to pay the principal of and interest on various outstanding bonds of the county of Champaign, Illinois. Could I have a motion, please? Beth, and a second by Aaron. Any discussion on this? This is something that gets done every year as part of the tax levy process.
Can I get a little extra explanation, because we got a lot of new board members this year, just to kind of 101 it. Assume that would be Michelle or Travis?
Travis in here? Okay, that's fine. I will do my best here. I thought if Travis was here, I would let him talk on that, but let me open to it real quick here. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so these are bonds that were issued previously for construction of various facilities. And every year we have to go through and do this as kind of a, it's the nuts and bolts of bonds, where basically we say the tax dollars have paid for these bonds. And so we every year have to go through and say, all right, we've done it for this year, and now next year we'll do it again. We should be getting close to done on some of these bonds, actually. But these are all related to construction of various public safety facilities here.
I can just add, I think, Beth, towards your question, this feeds into the legal requirement that we have, again, the set-aside funds, and that we have it very explicitly clear in the bond agreement how we're going to fund the bond payment, which is for us is taxes, and that's what this establishes. And then for your comment, JJ, I think we have bonds retiring in 27 and 28.
Okay, great. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That carries. And now we have several items from a regional planning commission. These are all applications, approving their applications. So is it okay if we do this as an omnibus, just one vote on all of them? Anybody opposed to that? Okay. Well, let me do some reading here. So we are approving the application for, and if awarded, acceptance of the assessing IEQ for health and weatherization impacts for sustainable environments, the IEQ-Health-WISE study grant, approving the application for, and if awarded, acceptance of the integration of indoor air quality IAQ in multifamily building energy audits, INSPIRE-MF grant, approving the application for, and if awarded, acceptance of the residential energy auditor training grant, approving the application for, and if awarded, acceptance of the microbiome linked indoor environment health factors and risk estimation grant, and approving the application for, and if awarded, acceptance of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act CEJA grant. Could I have a motion, please? Beth, and a second by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, those all pass. And we removed the RPC request, but their letter is in your packet, and I'm sure we'll be having more discussion on that. I have no other business.
I do, Mr.
You
Feynman.
have? Okay, go ahead.
As many of you know, Stephanie has been finance chair for some time and agreed begrudgingly to hold on for a while her shadow and successor grew and raised a new baby. Thank you. At this time, Stephanie, if she could have been here tonight, would have read this letter, but instead she's asked me to read it. Stephanie has submitted her resignation as finance chair and would like to thank the board members for their diligent work on finance issues these past 7 years. Ms. Furtado will be staying on the board. She is just resigning her time as finance chair. In our packet next week, there will be a resolution appointing her successor as finance chair. So between now and next Thursday, any finance questions go to Vice Chair, Acting Chair, John Farney.
I thought we were friends. All right, any other business? All right, I do not have a chair's report, and the items for the consent agenda are A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, D, 1 and 2, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Storr also could not be here this evening, so policy, personnel, and appointments will be brought to you by Vice Chair Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Locke. I'm going to kind of relocate here a little bit so I can see people. I see John right now, so anyway. First statement, sad to hear that Member Storr is taken ill, and just my heart goes out to him in prayers that he recovers soon. Hopefully he'll be here next month instead of myself. But anyway, I just really hope he recovers soon. All right, well, let's get started. So we're page 88 and 93. 88 through 93 is the first item, and that is the monthly HR report or summary for January 2025. Just a couple items to highlight. Number one, just maybe an attention to detail item or something to think about. And I've asked Steve to, and maybe Michelle, to kind of explain this item here. If you look at the January payroll information, look at the two columns. You've got January 10, January 24. Notice that the employees listed that were paid, employees eligible for payment, 496, and then 303 for Head Start. RPC, total of 799, $2.1 million paid for that pay period, but then we've got more employees. It looks like about 41 more employees for the next pay period, and it's $1.8 million. So I asked Steve maybe to explain, just for our understanding, why there's a change in about $500,000 with more people being paid.
Well, I did not take a real deep dive into this, but there are multiple reasons why there could be that difference. Some of our new staff may have been processed, but not yet reported to work. New employees that may have come in may not have worked a complete pay period. New employees are generally paid less than old employees, former employees, so that could be a rationale as well. And finally, I should have checked out with the clerk's office, the presence of election judges may have accounted for this in terms of the jump in number of employees. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Appreciate that. Some other items just to highlight. Yes.
I believe that part of a recent settlement, also a big chunk of the recent settlement was run through payroll as well, with IMRF coming out, and I think that might be a part of it as well. Yeah. Wasn't that?
You'll see it in next month, that settlement payroll payment was made in February. But that's a good point as to what could do it. And there could be other settlements or other payments of that nature. And the other issue would be that I just thought of, if we have long-term employees who are retiring or leaving and we're paying out their comp time, their vacation time, it's going to significantly increase our payroll costs, but we're not going to see an increase in people because we're paying one time significantly more money, and that all has to run through payroll.
Thank you for that answer. That was great. Next, just highlight real quickly on page 90, 91, we have 45 vacancies. Some are long-term outstanding. If you look at highway, the senior engineer was vacant on January 1, 2022. It's a long-term vacancy. Other items just of note to be aware of, Sheriff's Office, particularly correctional officers, looks like we're about 8 short. And Court Services, JDC, about 8 short. And then State's Attorney, looks like 3 short on attorneys, or 4 short on attorneys. So that's just something to keep in the back of our mind and encourage those departments to hire those additional officers. Okay, any questions on that?
Sorry, I do have information about correctional officers. I had a meeting with the sheriff recently, and he noted that we are fully staffed for patrol officers, which is amazing. And if everything goes well and people get through the rest of he has candidates that he's identified for correctional officers, and there's multi-stage testing and aptitudes that they have to go through. But if everything goes as planned, he'll be fully staffed for the first time in his tenure.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Sheriff Herman. All right, moving on. Let's see, where are we? Okay, we're on page 94. So this is number 2, item number 2, appointments and reappointments. Italics indicate incumbent. The first one is a resolution appointing Chelsea Angelo, an incumbent, as the animal control administrator, term 3/1/2025 to 2/28/2027. Would you like me to read the resolution first or ask for a motion? All right, so I'll ask for a motion to accept this resolution. say? John, okay, and second? Ms. Rogers, thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to read the resolution, page 94. Resolution number 20, I don't have to read it? Ah, yes. Whoa, all right, well, let's take a vote. All those in favor of approving this resolution for appointing Chelsea Angelo as the Animal Control Administrator, and I've heard she's been doing a bang-up job so far, a lot of good news from Chelsea, so let's take a vote. Anyone that agrees with this resolution, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone that disagrees, please say nay. All right, so this is unanimous. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Chelsea Angelo.
Thank you very much. Chelsea is doing a very, very good job. We're very lucky to have her.
Great hire, sir, great hire. Okay, next item is a resolution appointing Tony Steyerwalt to the Pasodum Consolidated Drainage District unexpired term ending 8/31/2027. May I have a motion for this resolution? All right, Mr. Aaron Esri, and a second? Mr. Sexton, thank you so much. All right, any discussion on the resolution? No? All right. So may we take a vote? All in favor of appointing Tony Steyerwalt to the Pasodum Consolidated Drainage District, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those that disagree, please say nay. All right, so the ayes have it. It's unanimous. Tony Steyerwalt, congratulations. You're now the Pasodum Consolidated Drainage District individual. Item number Charlie or C, current vacant appointments are listed and on the website, and then there are applications for appointments, information only, but I do just want to thank the county executive for working through this. On page 97, there is an application by Marcus James Shaw for the Prairie View Cemetery. So thank you for Marcus applying and for the county executive for working through that. Any comments so far? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to county clerk, page 98. His monthly fees are listed on page 98. Any discussion or comment about his fees? All right, none. So I'm just going to, we don't need to vote on this one, correct? This is just accept, right? Because it's a report. All right, I'm learning. All right, the next one is the sheriff. Now, the sheriff's not here, I believe. Yes, ma'am?
The sheriff was at a conference over the weekend where many people took ill. He asked to not come tonight to keep pestilence away from us. His memo is very detailed, though.
Yes, thank you so much. So yes, indeed, his memo was incredibly detailed, seems reasonable. Oh, that's my opinion. Seems reasonable. I don't believe there'll be questions, but we'll find out. So this is the resolution authorizing a change to administrative operating hours for the Champaign County Sheriff's Office, just to be consistent with everybody else. Are there any discussions related to this? Oh, a motion for this resolution. All right, we got to take my glasses off. Matt, thank you. And second, Mr. Farney. Any discussion? Yes, thank you, Ms. Loxton.
Not really a question, but just wanted to make clear to anybody who's paying attention at home, this doesn't change that the sheriff's office is available as a 24/7 service in this county. It just changes the walk-in hours for the building so that it's consistent with other offices that will be in the Bennett Center.
That's awesome. I like that because there's people watching. So what in the world are we doing here? So really what the sheriff's asking for people in the public is to have his office hours at the news center to be consistent with everyone else. And those office hours for everyone that's listening is from 8 a.m. to 4:30. The sheriff's current office hours are 8 to 5 in his current location. He wants to change it to 8 to 4:30, and that's what we're talking about. So may I have a vote for this? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I have one question. This might be more for Michelle. Does this change anybody's working hours, or were they already working 37 and a half hour weeks?
So everyone was already at the correct total amount of hours. We do have, I believe the sheriff's working with maybe 2 to 3 AFSCME people because their daily schedule will change a little bit, but I don't believe he's getting any difficulty with that, but it is being negotiated.
Good question. So may I take a vote here? So all those in favor of this resolution to have the sheriff's office hours consistent with the rest of the county individuals, please say aye. 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 Anybody disagreeing, please say nay. All right, so there's no disagreements. This resolution passes and as unanimous. All right, moving on. This one is going to be the fun discussion, and we're going to go to item number D, which is the county board changes to county board rules. We're going to talk about different topics here: order of business, presentation, public participation, and I see that there's other items that are in the changes that are not listed in this agenda. However, prior to Michelle talking and giving us a brief, I'd like to make a recommendation on how we're going to address this or have discussion about it. And my preference and my request that we go methodically through these changes, starting from A through Z, and not jump from Z when we're talking about A. Can we all agree to that? Thumbs up, I guess, on this one. Let's not jump back and forth. Let's stay consistent, talk one item at a time, yay or nay, or ask for changes, and then move on. I believe we should all be okay with that.
Hey,
Yes,
Jeff.
ma'am.
I was just going to say the copy that I just gave you is a color version, so it's much easier to see what the changes are. Because my apologies, I didn't think through that you would get a black and white printed version, so this will hopefully make your efficiency more efficient.
Amen.
I was just going to point
Ms.
that
Lockton,
out,
yes.
that we have a color version now that will highlight changes a little easier, but you got it.
That is awesome, because I went through with an orange highlighter to try to figure out what the changes were. But so let's begin with, maybe, Michelle, do you want to just give us a brief summary, and then let's go through each item?
Yeah, so the first change is actually not till page 10, where we talk about decorum. And then the next section is on page 12, where we have some clarification on what public input, and throughout the whole document, I also changed public participation to public input, as Board Member Sullard had suggested last time, to clarify for the public's confusion of thinking they're going to have a dialogue, and that's not really how it works. And then page 13, we have, again, the original proposal of adding an agenda item for presentations from outside entities, and then also a clarification on page 15 about why that designation is on the agenda. And I think, honestly, that's actually it. Aside, again, from throughout the entire document, public participation being changed to public input.
Public input.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle. So let's talk about the first item, which is presentations, agenda order, the placement of presentations in the order of business. And particularly, this is really allowing outside presentations in the order of business for our 3 meetings, which is the Committee of the Whole and the board meeting and other subcommittees. Any position or discussion about presentations on this point?
Wouldn't item 7 come before if we're going through in order? The rules?
I'm just going off
okay. I'm sorry, I thought we were looking at the order that changes were made in the document. Got it.
Thank you. I'm actually just going, if you don't mind, this doesn't go directly in sequence, but I figure let's just follow what's already been in the package if that's okay. But thank you. Good point. All right. So at least that's how I have it in my brain. It's how I've sectioned it. All right.
Got it. Thank you.
So let's talk about presentations. Is there any dispute or argument or discussion about allowing, not allowing, or where the placement of presentations should be? I don't see anything. Yes.
Thank you, sorry. Please bear with me tonight. I had a root canal and a crown, so I'm still flaky as hell. More than so than usual, so that's okay. So presentations though, so elected official wants to do that, they have to, usually will probably come later in the agenda probably. Is it possible we can move them still forward if needs had to be so?
Yeah, presentations from outside entities does not impact elected officials. Elected officials would be placed either where it most makes sense or where scheduling wise it makes most sense, and that would be a whole different category.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if such a thing arises where they need to be maybe possibly early, could they still? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brett. So then on the order of business, yes, perfect.
Do we define what a presentation is in here?
What a presentation is? No, I don't think we actually have any definitions of any of the terms that we use in here, which might be kind of like Project B for the rules. But there's a little bit of a clarification in item I on page 15 that for this piece, we're talking about outside entities trying to bring information to the board, but we don't define what a presentation is.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't think we should clearly define it if we leave it open-ended and like the presentation we had today, right? From the advocates for aging care. I guess that's what I think presentations are, but someone can abuse that, but let's hope not. But I think it's just pretty ubiquitous what a presentation is. Any thoughts on that?
I think if we're talking though specifically about community organizations and outside groups, then, I mean, presentation's pretty clearly like, yes, what happened today. And there are people who are requesting to come in and speak to the board or who have been asked to come in and speak to the board about a certain topic or issue. So I don't think there would be abuse, hopefully, from community organizations in that respect.
Megan and I gatekeep that pretty hard too, so there's that as well. Well, you're going down with me.
All right, so then just real quickly, recap. Seems like we have general agreement that presentations is allowable. Now it's a matter of the placement of presentations. So on the order of business for a regular board meeting, the recommendation is to put presentations between proclamations and communications. Any discussion on that? All right, I don't see any. Thank you. And then related to the committee of the whole, presentations are located between public participation, which we're calling it public input. Thank you. Between public input and communications. Any discussion on that? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, so, for full transparency, for the committee of the whole, if we create this presentation for outside entities designation on the agenda, then what could end up happening is, like, for example, the presentations that happened today that were part of the Justice and Social Services Committee section wouldn't be in that section. So those presentations wouldn't be chaired by that committee's chair. They would be chaired by the board chair as a part of the entire meeting. So I don't think that precludes, like, just to use Jamala as an example, if she said, no, I want this presentation in my section of the agenda so that I chair it, I think that's still allowable. But the default placement would then, going forward, be that it would be actually outside of her portion of the chairing of the meeting, and it would be at the beginning where the board chair is chairing. That was a lot of chairing, so I think that made sense. Okay.
Which, Michelle, that would most likely take care of during the agenda setting meeting, right? That would be it wouldn't just ad hoc happen. It's just the chair and the committee chairs would all say, we want it in this spot, right?
Yeah, we would want to know ahead of time, and it might be something that we start just clarifying during committee of the whole is, do you want it during presentations or do you really want this during your committee section when we're setting the agenda so that you're not having to amend agendas and make changes on the fly during the meeting.
Discussion on that? Aaron, yours?
Microphone, please.
Are we still on the same topic? Are we diverged a little bit?
Same topic, it's just the location of that topic. So we were talking about
I'm not okay
participation.
about the location, but a different question, so I can wait a minute.
Thanks. All right, last item is on presentations is locating it between public participation and communications on committee of the whole meetings, or standing committees, excuse me, and special committees and subcommittees. Any discussion?
I may have missed the mark on this, so I do apologize. My question was a little bit of process here. So if elected official, department head comes before the agenda is set, and they say they want to speak at this time, they are given that spot, right? Or given a spot.
Yeah, we would work with the department head about what it is they want to talk about, how long do they feel like they need to talk? Is it like something they want to do later in the meeting? Is it something they need to do right away? Like,
Okay.
the elected officials just
But it's the
get
same
much
meeting.
different
It would be the
treatment.
same meeting, though.
It would be what?
It wouldn't get put off a meeting. It would be that same meeting before the agenda that would happen.
No, I mean, unless the meeting for some reason is particularly full and we don't think that, you know, it would be a good fit for them to try to cram it in, which we would just suggest to them that maybe they want to wait till the next one.
Okay. And the same probably thing would too, if they came after the agenda was set and they wanted to actually present or have a talk at some point in time, we would just have to amend the agenda at that point in time.
If they said they wanted to speak to the board after the agenda had been set, we would probably refer them to whoever is chairing that meeting to make arrangements to see if they can get on the agenda at that point, because it would need to be an amendment on the floor.
Yes, thank you.
And then Brett, regarding elected officials, that's discussed later. We'll get there regarding elected officials. All right, thank you for that. So let's go on to communications agenda location. I'm on page 103 of the package, of my package, I guess. Communications agenda location. So there have been discussions about moving where communications were placed on the agenda. The current agenda order is on page 13 of the county board rules. The proposal is if the county board chooses to adopt the official entry of presentations on the agenda and it is followed by communications, the root of the issue should be resolved. There's no recommendation currently. So I don't even really know if there's a discussion on this. What was your thought on that, Michelle?
Well, it just seemed that if we make the designation of presentations for outside entities before communications, the original request of why communications was being moved is no longer needed. So I did not put in a recommendation to move communications at this time.
Perfect. Any questions on that? All right, thank you. Public participation, board member engagement. What, so there's a couple incidents that have happened in our past is prologue, but there are two parts of this issue. One, elected official using the public designated time to speak to the board. When elected appointed official can request their own designated place on the agenda, and the consequence or the feedback or the board's ability to engage in dialogue with an elected appointed official if they speak to the board during public participation. And the proposal is add the following item to the board rules during public participation under board meetings. So I have it here on page 105. And what page is it on here?
So it's page 12, item E4.
Okay.
And it's just a statement of preference, because I don't think we want to get into the territory of telling who can use public participation and who cannot. So I think this is just a clarifying statement to let elected officials and department heads know that they are always welcome and space will be made for them if they want to come speak to the board. They don't need to, I think some choose public participation because they feel like they're creating an inconvenience, and so just to address that issue. And then also just, I don't think you need to make this statement any stronger, because also there's just the reminder as well that at any time in public participation with anyone that is giving you input, you can suspend the rules and engage in dialogue with them if you so choose. So.
Yes, Ms. Lockshin.
And just another point of clarification, say an elected official wanted to come and speak about something that's completely unrelated to their role as an elected official, they can of course still come talk during public participation or public input and say, I'm not here as in my role as the treasurer. I'm here to talk to you about this dog that's in my neighborhood. That, you know, that's completely different. But they always have space on the agenda as their elected official role.
Thank you. I believe that's our all understanding. Go ahead.
So, Michelle, just to kind of clarify what you said a minute ago, if somebody wanted to come speak, they didn't, sometimes they felt like they wanted to get into the public input so they didn't inconvenience later or something. Has the opposite also been true, perhaps? There were people electeds and maybe want to come speak during public input and then not have to take questions, and that would perhaps be an opportunity for the board to suspend the rules and have that engagement so they can't chicken out?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had both of those situations happen multiple times, which is why I think what we only need is this clarifying statement that's not necessarily a rule, because again, then, you know, Meg and I can communicate with elected officials who maybe are asking like, oh, it's last minute, I just want to get in. No, we'll make room for you. They want to hear from you. But then if you still end up with someone who's trying to use public participation to avoid dialogue, you know, just suspend your rules and ask your questions.
Oh, the word chicken doesn't appear in the language.
It's self-defining in this instance.
All right, thank you. So just a clarification, Michelle, maybe you could help me with this. On page 103, line item 4, elected officials appointed and department heads shall not use the public, but when I look at the language on page 12, it says elected officials and appointed department heads are asked not. So why the softening of language, or how did we get there?
Yeah, I dialed it back because I didn't want us to have a rule that is limiting that appears to be limiting who can use public input. That seemed like a walking OMA violation that would probably quickly bite us. So that's why I just dialed it back to a clarifying statement of what the board's intent for the use of public input is, and making sure that elected officials and appointed department heads can see that if they want to be on the agenda, space will be made for them.
Perfect.
Thank you. So elected official comes in maybe same day, whatever, would like to talk to the board. Will we give them room? Usually.
Well, again, if it's the day of the meeting, we're going to look at the agenda as a whole. And if it's already 4 pages long, we're going to tell them like, we can try to make it work, but it's probably not the best meeting because it's already a really long agenda.
Things happen, yeah.
If they really, really feel like they need to talk to the board that night, then we'll connect them to whoever's chairing the board meeting that evening and say, hey, they want to speak tonight about a specific county issue. Can you make an amendment to the agenda on the floor to put them on the agenda?
Sure. And speaking to actually number 4 too, because I wrote it to the actual thing, and I'm looking at this correction here. Are we going to have any kind of enforcement of this? And what would that look like?
Enforcement of item 4?
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
I'm going for the original. I was looking at the new stuff right now. The change here on page 12. And I hate we do this last minute too, so I'm sorry. I just looking at it right now. So I guess I'm with my original question.
Well, so again, for 4, you know, there's no enforcement because, again, I don't think we want to get into the territory of telling people or preventing people from using public input at the board meeting. But again, if an elected official continues to choose public input to try to come and speak to the board thinking they will not have to engage in dialogue, you can just suspend the rules and have a conversation with them.
Okay.
And if an elected official is using public input because they think that they shouldn't be taking up time on the agenda, that's just a conversation to have with them to tell them that you're who they want on the agenda. So we'll make that happen.
Okay.
And I also just want to point out item 7, which is not new and is part of, I believe, Robert's rules and is a practice that you guys have had for a while. I've just put it down there so that everyone feels comfortable knowing that they can do that. And if anyone questions them about it, you can point to the board rules and say that that's allowable.
Thank you. It's just that, Michelle, 7 is an add. It wasn't there before, and now it's more of a clarification, right? It's actually in writing in our rules, correct? Okay, thanks. Any further discussion on page 103, board meetings? If not, I'd like to move to recognition of members of the board, committees, and others as page 104, item Roman numeral 12. This is item Echo, or E, on the, and this goes, Brett, to you for the discussion of the appearance of elected and appointed officials of the Champaign County government and other persons requested to appear, XYZ, shall not be subject to limitations regarding public participation. And then here, I think is a key phrase, shall be recognized at the discretion of the presiding officer. So the way I understand this, Michelle, elected official shows up, elected official A shows up, elected official B shows up, say we have 2 elected officials, the presiding officer would be, I suppose, the chair, or the chair of this particular committee, or would be Executive Summers on the county board, unless the presiding officer recognizes that individual to speak and may only recognize A versus B, then that's the only time they're allowed to speak. Is that true?
Yeah, and that applies to everyone. No one can speak until recognized by whoever is chairing that specific portion of the meeting, which is just a basic Robert's Rules function. So I think the point that that statement's trying to make is you don't need someone on the agenda to hear from them. Like, if you have, I mean, we do it all the time. You know, Julia's here and you come up with a legal question and you drag her up here and start peppering her with, you know, legal questions. Like, that's totally allowable. You could even do it with the general public. Like, when we had the carbon sequestration people here, if someone in the audience was like, I wrote a dissertation on it, I'm an expert on this, and you had a bunch of questions, you could be like, hey, come up, we want to ask you some questions, and you can start having a dialogue with them. Those are all allowable actions as long as whoever's chairing the meeting recognizes the person that you want to be talking with.
Matt.
Just to be clear, this is not a provision that's being changed other than from participation to input, right? This is already in the rules.
The phrase public participation versus public input?
That part's changed, but the rest of the explanation and the question, Mr. Wilson's reading from the memo that you had sent us originally. This is not a portion that is changing in anything we'd be adopting.
No, I think that portion of the memo, I'm actually pointing out other pieces that are already in the board rules that you can be utilizing to address some of the issues that we've had. So I don't think it's anything new, it's just pointing out what's already there.
Correct, and this is also in part response to Brett to help him understand elected officials appearing at a meeting. That's a good comment, Matt, thanks. Okay, so I believe where we are, I am moving down, unless someone has a comment, to parliamentarian.
Just a general question, I'm sorry. Is the only thing that's changed between this and was just given to us is
There should be nothing different. This should just be a color version of what's...
Part 10, E4?
Well, is that not what's happening? Is this not just a color version of what's already in the packet?
I thought number 4, the language got changed. Asked not to versus...
So in the back of it, I think she's saying like this part is the same thing as this, but you're referring to something different.
Yeah, I just left the memo in there for reference of the length of the conversation. What we should be looking at is the rules, and the color version is the easiest one to follow.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do between the one I was
just put everything
given.
down and just follow the color rules. This is all
This
you
is
need.
what I meant. Okay, I just got this right
No,
today.
it's what's in the packet already.
This is not the same language for number 4. That's why I'm asking if there's anything else that's changed. Okay, so it shall not use. Okay, or ask not, and it says shall not. Okay. That's what I was asking, if there's any other differences between these.
Well, that's the memorandum that you're referring to, but right here.
Okay,
That's the same as this.
okay, there we are, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get confused, yeah.
So I think the only thing we actually have left is page 10, which is the decorum section.
Mike, please.
Your mic's off.
Thank you. It's a team effort, yay. So the next section is decorum or codes of conduct, or I won't call it ethics, it's more codes of conduct, right? How we behave ourselves together. And in the blue, page 10, in the blue, or you can see the changes, or you can see that, well, actually, you don't see that in the agenda package, but attached to the agenda package was the 2024 rules marked up, and then you can see that here there's an add. So maybe we just talk about the add for rules of decorum. Sections G and sections H are added on page 10. Are we all there? Okay, we're all there, good, thank you. So this is our behavior that we're agreeing to. Board members shall conduct themselves in accordance with the following standards of decorum. A, speak clearly into a working microphone, as I was just corrected, right? So speak clearly into a working microphone, address their comments to the meeting chair, not other members. Whoa. So I have to remember this, right? So address comments to the meeting chair. Not, well, if a meeting individual asks a question, you could still address the individual, right, versus the chair?
I believe technically, if you wanted to follow Robert's rules very literally, you actually should only always be addressing the chair.
Wow. So that's, okay, I'm learning, right? So seriously, so, because we don't do that, right? Go ahead.
But, I mean, just to be clear, is it the chair who's chairing that section? So like if Chair Locke had said, turning it over to Jamala for Justice and Social Services, then I would be addressing Jamala. Okay, just making sure. Right.
I guess we can help us all on that. Matt?
Just to kind of clarify that, that just means you shouldn't be speaking directly to some other member that's not the chair. You can reference that person. For example, you're chairing this section right now, so I can speak to you directly.
Yes.
But if I'm going to reference Mr. Wiggs, I should address you by referencing Mr. Wiggs and not address Mr. Wiggs directly. That's all that's referencing, and it's just codifying it. That's pretty standard in Robert's Rules behavior.
All right,
But if Mr. Sullard talks to you as the chair and names Mr. Wiggs now has the right to respond immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, like to be the next.
The next
he needs to
speaker.
be the next person
In the
recognized by the
sequence.
chair. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ms. Rodriguez.
So basically, if you've ever watched Congress where they're like, the distinguished gentleman from blah, blah, blah just said yada, 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 that's they're following Robert's rules. It's to avoid arguments.
Well, it's also to avoid then the distinguished gentleman, Mr. Wiggs,
Yes.
being able to have the floor
Yes.
immediately because he was not actually named by the distinguished gentleman, Mr. Sullard, in his comment.
There's a lot of distinguishing going on here.
The distinguished woman from District 8.
Exactly. I might reference the member from District 8, for example, vice chair.
Distinguished, please, Mr. Sullard.
The grand lady from District 8.
Who does
Grand
have the
Madam.
floor, actually.
Member,
Let's
Ms.
keep that up,
Distinguished
Mr.
Rodriguez,
Wilson.
please.
Yeah, I
Yes.
like that. I like that. Could we get something in here about electioneering?
So that's already banned, which is why I actually did not explicitly write it in. It's already, and it actually applies to everyone. So someone from the audience shouldn't come up in a T-shirt that says "vote for a candidate," like just a general member of the public. You could ask them to go turn your shirt inside out or whatever. No one should be holding signs that are electioneering, and so yeah, no one should be, because again, it's the rule of government resources should never ever be used to further someone's political campaign. And that applies to anyone trying to further any political campaign with taxpayer money.
Member Beth.
Thank you, distinguished chair. The person, policy person. I will note that issue advocacy is not electioneering. Issue advocacy is issue advocacy. It's not electioneering because you can't elect an issue.
Right, unless it's on the ballot.
Yeah.
Distinguished Member Farney.
Are we talking, Michelle, is this banned in the ethics ordinance? Is that where the electioneering thing is mentioned? I just want to.
I looked
Okay.
at so many things. I think it's in Robert's rules. And I think it also might be, I think you could construe it from the ethics ordinance in the language around, again, no government resources being utilized for electioneering.
But the ethics ordinance would only apply to employees of the county,
But I
not
also,
the general
yes.
public.
So them, but I also think it's, and I will triple check, I looked at a lot of
Okay.
resources, but I'm pretty sure it's already in Robert's rules that in general, you're just not supposed to be electioneering.
Okay, so I might need a clarification then, because I know that people are going to come back and say, well, you talked about the public safety sales tax during meetings. Like you were looking at budget, like we're looking at budgets for both. Is that considered board business, or is that could be termed electioneering? Because I know that's going to come up.
I think, and we're getting into a pretty legal conversation, so I'm not gonna say a whole lot. I think it depends on if you say, I am the distinguished Jenny Lockshin, and I'm telling you to vote for the public safety sales tax, versus as the facilities chair, I know that our capital plan is coming up with some major expenses and we don't have the revenue for it. We need additional revenue. That's why the public safety sales tax is on the ballot.
Ms. Lockshin again.
I prefer indistinguishable, actually, but I did actually have on a completely separate issue. Sorry, I had to. When we say, okay, and I know I'm trying to get clarification due to my own experiences on the board. Are we saying at the top, board members shall conduct themselves in accordance with the following standards of decorum? Is that only apply to meetings in person, or can that also apply to any board business and communications?
I don't know how you would apply it outside of a meeting. I mean, I appreciate what your concern is, but I just don't know how we would do that. And I don't know what your response would be to a violation or how it would be addressed. I think as a board member, you have a right to reference actions that violate the decorum standard outside of a board meeting at a board meeting to highlight that there's a problem. But again, as you'll see with all of these, like there's also really not a lot of repercussions because you're all elected officials, and you can't impinge on who the people have elected to vote for them or to represent them.
Right.
So
it was mentioned earlier, somebody was talking about being professional and treating people with dignity and respect, and I just wish we could enforce that as a board to treat each other that way, especially when it's official board communications and I'm sending emails via my official county account and receiving messages back via official county account that are not respectful. No. Yes.
Thank you very much, uniquely distinguished Board Member Lockshin. Thank you. All right, so that was bravo. So now we're on Charlie. Oh, Brett, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I got the change from page 114 to page 10. We're taking out the first sentence of Part H and putting it as Part F on G.
I feel like I'm BBAing.
I just want to make sure I just have this correct.
I think it was probably a missed bullet point.
it's just a formatting issue. It's the same language.
No, it's the same way. I just want to make sure that I got it correct on here. Because it's like a capital F2, it's got a cross through it, so I just want to make sure that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Because words tracking changes and there was a formatting or X out and put back in, that's why it shows up. Okay.
First time seeing
That's a great question, though.
First time seeing, I just want to make sure I have it correct, that's all. Thank you.
Yep, very good. Charlie, refrain from personal attacks on fellow board members or staff, including naming specific individuals and ascribing intent and motive to an individual. Any discussion on that? All right, thank you. D, Delta, do not use obscene or profane language, including name calling. Amen. Any comments on that? Okay. E, Echo, do not interrupt fellow board members when they rightly have the floor and wait for the chair to acknowledge before speaking. Yes, distinguished Matt.
Just a comment, if that is happening, oh, sorry. Myself.
E violation. No longer distinguished. You're just distinguished.
On that, I mean, I'm not sure everyone who needs to pay attention to that line and the other companion section is present in the room today, but their section 12 talks about this as well, Article 12, I should say. So in GE, we're talking about do not interrupt fellow board members who have the right to speak. Article 12 later on talks about each member having the right of privilege upon seeking and obtaining recognition by the presiding officer. No member may speak twice until all members wishing to be heard have been spoken, and then C, the presiding officer determines the order in which members can be recognized. I'm just kind of pointing out that this line, I guess, emphasizes all of that a little bit in kind of a succinct spot. And again, I wish everyone were here to hear that.
Thank you, Member Matt. Okay, Mr. Aaron.
And that was my fault. And I should be called out for that. If you should. If you're being overran by anyone, I mean, you don't have to, of course. I mean, that's your call. But call them out on it. I mean, Mr. Solar would have been perfectly, I have the floor. And I mean, seriously. So don't necessarily let yourself be ran over, be a doormat. I mean, I'm just putting it in those terms. You have every right, if you have the floor, to make that point. So that just everyone in here to, like I say, would have been perfectly in his right to call that out publicly and make sure that I heard it and got the message.
And that's also what point of order is for. And point of order is anytime, any place you have any confusion as to what are we voting on, what are we talking on, who's supposed to be talking, what is happening, just point of order is just like timeout, right? Like, so just stop and someone tell me what's actually happening here so that I can keep up with the meeting, right? So point of order is just a really, I think, non-confrontational way, if that's more comfortable for someone, to figure out who's actually supposed to be speaking and what are we actually supposed to be speaking about.
Member Pogue, do you have, I thought your light was on. You raised your hand.
Last name is Pugh, but thank you very much, Mr. Wilson.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm just going to say this. Can we stop alluding to people? If you're going to call somebody out, say their name or shut the hell up.
Okay, so you've now violated 2 of the proposed
I don't point of order. It needs
points.
to be done. Thank you. Bye.
Point of order for decorum.
Yeah.
We'll be refraining from using obscene or profane language and addressing comments to the chair and not calling people out, in fact.
Member Loction.
And I would just like to point out that also demonstrates that we are not alluding to one person in particular. There are multiple people. I am not.
Point of order. Member Pugh does not have the floor.
I have the floor. Oh, come on. I have the floor, and I'm saying you are demonstrating that people do not follow the rules of decorum. I am trying to follow the rules of decorum and be respectful to other board members. I wish you would do the same.
Member Brett, you want to add to this, or are you finished?
No, sure. It's a workaround. We'll just say that. We've alluded to members or certain people for the 2 years I've been on this board, instead of calling them out or saying their names, because we can't. So I'm just saying, say their names or stop the sniping and the other parts of it, because it just looks petty.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the next item. It's capital F, but it's really little f, right? Do not raise their voices, make physical gestures, or otherwise attempt to intimidate fellow board members. Yes.
I support this change. I think it's necessary.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I'm just going to stop here. So G, A through F. Is there any further discussion on G, A through F? Member Beth.
Yeah, just a point of order, it's A through E. F has been subsumed into H? Or we changed that again? I have F crossed off.
Put the strike through.
Okay, so it's supposed to be lowercase. Gotcha, because in here it was, okay, sorry.
I think I tried to make it lowercase and then it just tried to delete it and then I got mad at it and I just stopped.
Yeah.
All right. Agreeing that there's no further discussion on those particular items, I'm going to move on to H, hotel. In the event a member is not adhering to the conduct outlined in G, any member may call for point of order. To address the violation, the chair may interrupt the offending member using a gavel, but that's not there, may interrupt the offending member and direct them to specific code of violation and/or a recess may be called. Any comments on G?
So that's a good point. There had been at one point a comment about getting a gavel. I have not pursued that. I didn't know if that was like an actual thing that you wanted or if you wanted to talk about it some more. So I'm not ignoring it. I just wasn't quite sure what the actual directive was on that piece. So
The current board chair is not in favor of anything that could be used as a projectile. We have hands, we can bang it.
All right, perfect. That concludes this discussion with the exception of three more things I want to bring up. Board member Vanishner. Beth, board member Beth.
I'm just saying as a mom, if one person gets a gavel, everyone's gonna want a gavel, and then there's gonna be fights over who has a gavel. Just don't do it.
All right, thank you. And Mr., I can't see that far, Fava, thank you.
Thank you. I just had a question about language. Throughout Article 7 refers to the meeting chair. In the other articles, there is the phrase presiding officer. Is there a distinction between those two?
They're synonymous. Presiding chair, presiding officer, and chair are synonymous. Am I correct on this?
yeah, they are, but for continuity, I can switch Article 7 to presiding officer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Solar.
Just briefly on that point, when the full board meetings, the executive's chairing, so it's presiding officer is a broader term that can shift around whenever there's different people chairing a meeting. The chair is more specifically applicable to county board chair, presiding officer, who is whoever's running the meeting.
Perfect. So where we go here? We leave that language as stated or what?
Well, so I guess point of order question. You could, I don't know, and I think Megan might have to be the one who answers this. Can we not vote on this now? I make that change and I fix this formatting issue and then it comes back to the county board meeting and they vote on it?
They could technically vote tonight and say what's presented along with change X, Y, and Z
Okay.
is what is moving forward to the county board.
Okay. And just confirmation, we do want to go with public input versus public participation, just to have that on the record that we discussed that. Okay.
All right, thumbs up. Public input. All right, perfect. We're going public input. I have just a few more things real quickly that need some editing. And I'm looking at the table of contents in this page 106 here. We are missing Roman numeral 11. If you could add that, that'd be awesome, which is the order of business. And then one other editorial change I would like to see is on page 122, that's policy, personnel, and appointments. Number 2, I would like that to go from italics to just normal font. Are there any objections to that?
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Lockshin.
can you let me know, like, which version are you looking at and which page again? Because
I'm on page 112, which is
the packet
Page
version.
18.
page 18. And page 18, for clarification, probably shows the same here, maybe not. So page 18 shows a C, policy, personnel, and appointments. Item number 2 is shown in italics. I would like to see that no longer in italics.
I just didn't know which version you were looking at compared to mine. I appreciate it.
Good question. And then I do want to see a change on the table of contents, or the insertion,
Yeah, I also see the bookmark error.
Your mic turned off.
and the bookmark
Yeah,
error
we need to fix
correctly
that
at the
too.
bottom.
Yeah.
And then, last item, which is page 125 here, the resolution shall become effective February 20th. So that, I assume, it depends on if we all agree to what's been presented and the additional changes. Yeah, that's the county board meeting. So for us to advance from here to the county board meeting, we'd all agree to what we've talked about, and then plus the additional administrative changes. Mr. Sollard.
Just a point of clarification, is this a superseding resolution or is this amending an existing resolution? Because it seems like this resolution already exists and we're just amending certain parts of it. It's not a brand-new resolution that we're superseding an existing, am I right?
Yeah, I just followed the previous history on the front page where we adopt a new resolution
Oh.
when we update the rules.
We used to do that.
I just did what we've always did. I didn't make anything up.
Just to answer, that's on page 107 or page 3. So on page 3, you'll see we're changing the previous resolution. We talked about 2024 resolution and creating a new resolution in year 2025. I'm assuming that's the standard format we've used historically for rules and procedures of the Champaign County Board.
I think it would get really messy if we were just trying to amend the same resolution over and over.
All right, Chair acknowledges Mr. Farney.
On page 21 of the color copy, page 125 of the packet, we have the 25th day of February. That should be the 20th, so that needs to be fixed too. And are we?
Mr. Sollard.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, you, then back.
Similarly, in terms of just a cleaning up, when I mentioned it in caucus, it's not a big deal, but it's probably a minor adjustment on 7F, where it references any rule except Rule 6E. It should say any rule except Rule 7E to reference the section right above it and not a previous article.
Do you have that? Good catch. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? I don't know if I could remember all the changes. Can we repeat that, Megan? We're accepting the markup and then additional administrative changes, which had the table of contents, we had the date, and we had the italics, and then the proper placement that Member Sollard mentioned. Go ahead, Megan.
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 Would you guys feel more comfortable with us making those changes and putting it on the county board agenda instead of voting tonight to move it forward to county board? So that you can see all of it in one finished document?
All right, so who wants to make that motion? Ms. Rodriguez? Who's seconding that motion? Ellie. Thank you. Forgive me. Ellie, thank you. All right, all in favor of following that motion that we have a cleaned up copy presented at the county board meeting of which all board members will have the opportunity to comment and vote on, say aye. Aye. All right, anyone that opposes, say nay. Did you say yay or nay? Nay, okay, so almost unanimous. All right, so now finally we're getting towards the end, and it's other business of which I have none. County Board Chair, do you have something you want to add? All right, good. Chair's report. My only report is the following. I just want to, again, greatly appreciate our county employees and want them to know that we appreciate them and ask them to keep doing what they're doing, and thank you for being there. And then designated items to be placed on the consent agenda. I see 2, and please correct me if I am wrong. I see Roman numeral 9, capital letter A, number 2, little letter A, that's Chelsea Angelo. And then I see item B, Tony Starwalt for their appointments. Is there something I am missing?
C1.
C1. Oh, yes, thank you very much. And also the sheriff, C1 resolution authorizing the change for his business hours. Any comment? All right, I see none. Distinguished Chair of the County Board, I return this meeting to you.
Most honorable and exalted, all of the things. Just for other business, I want to remind all of us in this room and without, all of us, every single one of us, I could name all 22 names, but I'm just going to say all of us, we have to be civil. We have to treat each other with respect. There's no time that is appropriate to comment on another person's physical appearance, be it their size, be it their hair, be it anything else. We can disagree on opinions. We can disagree on professional disagreements, political differences. Commenting on physical appearance is beyond the pale, and we should all do better. That's all. Calling this meeting adjourned at 8:49 p.m. See y'all next week.